Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maverick Mystic Arts Podcast. We're going to continue today with our exploration of Franz Barden's initiation into Hermetics, Step 9, and we will be exploring the spiritualizing of the astral body. This is an introduction to that, as well as a little bit of a chat about astral travel. So, let's begin with astral travel. How does it differentiate from a mental travel or mental wandering? Well, the astral body has a very, very strong connection to the physical body. So when you start trying to work with astral traveling, taking more than the mental wandering, but an aspect of the astral body or the physical along with you, you can run into some massive issues and some potential health hazards. So it's something that I don't really have much interest in and haven't explored much because the ramifications can be quite steep. Now, in more advanced aspects of the astral work, you can do it with portions of the body, and that is something that someday I will explore a little more. So I don't have too much to say on astral travel, other than if you're going to do it, be careful because you are taking a big chunk of what makes you alive out of the body. What gives us our health, our robustness, all of that is the integration, the unification of the bodies. And as we start to pull them apart, you run the risk of not being able to put them back together again, right? You become Humpty Dumpty. So be aware of that and make sure if you're going to explore the astral traveling type of work that you really have solid health, good vitality, good equanimity. Now, value outside of the obvious things you could get from that work, which Barden mentions in the book, you can learn about this flux or this shift from being linked and then having the astral body sort of pulled apart, right, from the physical and then put back together. And this can help you reintegrate very thoroughly, okay? Because you get to practice that mechanism of separating, right, and then reunifying. And there can be value just in that one little piece alone. If you have sustained some deep mental and psychological, well, that would be mental, psychological and emotional trauma, you might have experienced a type of astral fracture, where an aspect of the astral body, a good chunk of it, has essentially broken off the physical body and it doesn't want to exist in the place of the physical body. And so can kind of hang out other locations beyond the body in the field. And I've noticed this in people who've had some very, very severe trauma. Think of the worst things that you could imagine happening to somebody and make it worse. That type of trauma. And even worse than that. Now, basically, when that astral body, that aspect of the astral body gets removed, there's a massive amount of vitality and potential integration and health that gets pulled out along with it. So over the years, the health will start to deteriorate. And when I have worked with people in these states, as we identify that part of them that's existing outside of themselves and offer it an opportunity to reintegrate into the body so that there can be that integration and the energy can actually start working. That flow can start working. There's often an incredible amount of resistance. That part from both sides, right? That part of the astral body doesn't want to re-enter the physical body. That is where the pain exists. Doesn't want to re-enter the mind. That is where the pain exists. Okay, but also the person who's consciously identifying as the person, you know, they don't like the feeling as that energy starts to be reintroduced either, because now they have to experience the body with that type of energy in it. They have to experience the pain of those blockages in the body, and the pain of those blockages in the emotions, and the pain of those blockages in the mind. Because if you have gotten used, say for decades, let's say for 20 years, you have had this astral fracture, and the energy is depleted more and more and more, you might find a state of total peace with the trauma of your past, merely because there isn't enough energy to pressurize those traumas, right? So that's the type of person who will always be just bleeding the energy off. And as soon as more energy is put into the system, oh, it's so uncomfortable, I'm so tight, it's this, it's that, I don't like it. So because of that, when this reintegration starts to happen, the person doesn't want it. And it's a bit of a slap in the face to that astral aspect of yourself, to that part of your astral body that's, you know, it's like a snail's eye, you know, it starts to check out where it's going, and if you touch it, it retracts, right? If it gets sort of pushed down or revoked, it retracts. Right? It's usually a quite innocent aspect of ourselves. So we want to be aware of this, so that if we are going to engage in these reintegration processes, we don't deny these very innocent, childlike parts of ourselves that may have sustained a type of, or have existed, been suspended in a type of arrested development. That we don't deny them, and that we don't shut them down as soon as that potential opening and reintegration starts to occur. Okay? So if you have spent some time, even just a little bit, working with very, very small amounts of freeing the astral body up a little bit in a way that could lead to astral travel, just that first stage can have tremendous amounts of benefit, because you'll be able to open things up and put things back together. And I think for most folks, that's where most of the value is going to come from. Now, for more advanced practitioners, you can explore the depths of that work more. However, the astral fracture side of things is something to be noted, okay? You never want to make assumptions for people. Whatever you experience in your clair senses, it's best to keep that more ask questions, right, than to just go, hey, did this happen to you? It's not very thoughtful. It doesn't really help anybody, right? And it usually creates a contraction of the matrices and inhibits healing, because when you're reintegrating, there also has to be an openness so that reintegration can occur. You have to be open so that unity in a higher, in a more refined state can actually filter its way through. Okay, and then close down after that to internalize the reintegration, and then open again and keep evolving it and close down again. This is the constant process of opening, unifying with a higher power or a more refined aspect from an alchemical standpoint. And then once that unification has embedded itself, you've embodied that unification more fully and completely, embody, speech, mind, all the layers, then we open up again and the process continues. Sovereignty, unity, sovereignty, unity, sovereignty, unity. You have to be free so that you can unify with something more refined. And this is just how the process tends to work. So now we want to get into the spiritualizing of the astral body. And this is sort of a prerequisite for more advanced deity yoga. Okay, now The way that Barden has orchestrated this is with the fire element to the quality of omnipotence, the air element to the quality of omniscience or all-knowingness. Omnipotence is essentially all-powerful, all-knowingness or all-wisdom, divine wisdom. The water element, he offers immortality as the quality to the water element, and to the earth element, in this stage, he offers omnipresence, which is to be everywhere, all present, right, in all locale simultaneously. So the way that this is worked on is individually, right? With each, you meditate on each aspect individually, and eventually you reach a stage with each aspect that you can meditate on all of them at once. Now, the big pitfall with this type of practice is the cultivation of a crazy supercharged ego. So we want to be aware of that. How we navigate this is, instead of using the ego's understanding itself, the 3D part of us, that understanding of what each of these qualities means, we go into the Akasha, we find the depths of equanimity, of Akashic equanimity, and from that place, from a relationship with light, we invite the quality through the Akasha. And this essentially purifies the habitual meaning we might have with those words out of it. Now, why these qualities? When most of us are looking at what we might conceive of as divine character or deity, it might be one of these qualities that we associate with it. And there's an interesting thing that Barden does here where in the next chapter, in step 10, he looks at another quality as well, and then things reorganize. But we want to explore all of these different qualities. And so when we spiritualize the astral body, this is actually baking these relationships into the astral body to the point where you are this quality. Now, the reason we want to go through the Akasha to these qualities, through the depths of equanimity, is because if we aren't, then we get this weird, distorted, refracted idea of, say, the quality of omnipotence. If we're trying to use the understanding of the mind, the emotions, the body from this space, from that location, to understand omnipotence, and to then meditate on that course relationship with omnipotence and embody that, it's not hard to see how someone could develop a super hyper inflated ego. Go, oh, I'm all powerful. Who? Me, this guy. That's something we want to be hyper aware of. Okay? This is not to inflate your ego. This is not to enliven that coarse aspect of ourselves. Remembering that this is on the back of a lot of work, this practice. It's on the back, comes, after a deep exploration of Akasha, a deep exploration of the workings of the mind, of the qualities, the attributes of mind, right? There's a lot of work that goes in prior to this. So really, really give yourself the opportunity to cultivate a strong relationship with the Akasha, a strong relationship with light, and then you can start and with say balancing and harmonizing the elements in their astral nature, in their mental nature, as we've discussed before, so that when you begin spiritualizing the astral body, it's done from a place of purity, right? That's really, really important. So what's interesting is, as you start to bring omnipotence and resonate that through the astral body, you start to notice some very interesting shifts that occur. When you start to bring omniscience, this divine wisdom, through the astral body starts to resonate with and almost become full of these qualities. It comes into harmony, into resonance with these qualities. And any part of you that is not in resonance with this starts to fade away. So you start to develop a relationship through the Akasha with a wisdom, a knowing that exists beyond any immediacy of the moment, right? A relationship to the spark of action that is omnipotence, that is the power of the creative and destructive functions, right? And this works out cosmically. That starts to bake into your astral body. When it comes to astral, say, immortality, how could we describe this? The freedom from the elements, the freedom from the influence of the elements on an astral standpoint, that starts to infiltrate. You start to become free from the beckonings of the elements. And this is what really allows for that immortality to start to permeate, right? You look at it's a very interesting one to explore, because immortality can be looked at from the astral standpoint, the immortality of the astral body, almost in direct contrast to the dissolution into nibbana. Some might even look at it like a necessary return path for the work of the bodhisattva, who denies the totally freeing themselves, stepping off into nibbana, and returns as a returner to help aid in the freedom of the rest of the beings that are in these lower planes. So lots of exploration there. Now you might go, okay, well, is immortality, like, why is this to the water element? This tends to be because the water element is associated with the soul, with the astral side of things. This denser part of the energy body, or the bodies that you can play with. So you could also go, okay, well, immortality, maybe that should be to the earth element, right? What is more permanent than that which has been brought, into form completely, right? That's pretty substantial. But then once, and this is again could be why the water element, once you start relinquishing time, that which was the earth element becomes the water element, right? And immortality has to do with the relinquishment of time, or the existence through time, where time is no longer what's the word we could use? A factor. There's a word. It starts with a C. A factor that is, well, it's not contributing, but essentially controlled by time, right? The earth element, when you relinquish time, the earth element flows like water. And you can look at that even from a physical standpoint. If we were to put a time-lapse camera on the mountains, right, even though they seem still, over enough time, the earth element, that which is form, becomes less formful. If you relinquish space on the water element, right, what happens, right? It turns into the air element, right? And then on the other side of that, you have the fire element in this standpoint, or we could say like almost a plasmic type of relationship, where essentially that which is form breaks apart into subform, and through that you have this relationship to essentially the ether and this plasmic type of relationship from a formful standpoint. So that's where you might look at immortality being actually to light and the fire element, because what is more permanent than that which is beneath all of the permanence, right? So there's a lot to explore there. Now, the omnipresence. This is one that usually breaks people's mind a little bit, so you want to be careful with how you introduce this. And this is, of course, to be present in all things, through all things, of all things, right? And this can be looked at as to the earth element. So that's how Barden explores it. You can also look at this as to the Akasha. I mean, that's kind of obvious, to be all penetrating and all permeating and all encompassing, right? The omnipresence is sort of the reason you could look at it as to the Akasha is because to be omnipotent, to be all powerful, to be at one with all things in the relationship to the creative and destructive cycles, to that potent moment, right? That aspect, that relationship. What's necessary? The all part, the omni part. To be omniscient, right? There's a connection to all things. To be all loving, which we get into in the next chapter, or again from a deityistic standpoint, or even immortal, there is a relation to the all of things. So the omnipresence is sort of the crux of that. It's the bedrock of all of the omnis. In my experience with these and many other practices. Now, if you want to work these, you go into the depths of meditation. And I do not suggest working with the spiritualizing of the astral body until one has spent a lot of time in very, very deep, clean meditation, right? This is something that you might do in a retreat setting, okay? And by that I mean there is no distraction. All day, every day, you are in the depths of meditation, right? There's no talking, there's no one else that you're communicating with in any way, you're not typing or texting or working. There is nothing that is stimulating your sense of self other than all of your habits. And so you go into the depths of retreat, you spend some days finding that purity, that equanimity, that akashic depth. And from that point, you would then work with the opportunity of inviting these divine qualities, these qualities of deity into the astral body, one at a time, until you become that quality. Not you, the you that you think is you. From the other side of that, right? We've already dissolved and we're working from a much cleaner, clearer, empty space. This is absolutely crucial for the spiritualization of the astral body. And I'm going to point out again that the ramifications of not working from that point of clarity is substantial when it comes to the cultivation of a super inflated sense of self and ego. And if you're not sure whether or not you're working from that space, you're probably not, right? There's some pretty clear recognition as you keep working through this stuff, right? One of the pitfalls of trying to bite off practices that we might not have the foundation for is this hyperinflation of the ego as like the most, almost like the least destructive, the health ramifications, the relationship ramifications can be pretty brutal. So we just want to be aware of that. How much, if there's any pride in the spiritualization of the astral body, if there's any pride whatsoever, any me, I'm the boss, I'm the man, then more akasha, more equanimity, more harmonizing the elements, more deep concentration, meditation, where you're so absorbed in the minute nature of the subtleties of what's going on, you can refine all the qualities of mind, and you can go, oh, there's the the water element attaching to that quality. There's how the mind, that cohesion to this quality of divinity I'm trying to bring through. There's the ego getting involved. Be aware of these things and really, really be honest with yourself. Because you can do a lot of damage to other people when you've developed energetic skills. When you start developing this stuff, impurities of mind, impurities in the astral body, ill will towards other people in any respect. If you've developed some energy skills, you can hurt people. And this can happen in very subtle ways. So really, really get your stuff together. Then you start spiritualizing the astral body. And what I've noticed as you start to really build these qualities into the astral body is the freedom. Again, the omni side of things, this all aspect. The freedom starts to really build in. And you start to develop a strong relationship with sovereignty and we might call it like a spiritual confidence starts to develop. This confidence is based on competence, and the competence has its foundation in equanimity and non-self, right? Not because you have a skill in this or that, right? But your ability to release. There's a competence in this, a competence in the non-attachment to and constant re-edification and reformulation of this thing that we call us. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in training, I have a retreat I am teaching coming up in June 2025 here in Canada, Powell River, British Columbia. This will be a 16-day retreat, a level 1 and 2 spiritual attunement. That's the crux of the training is through the transmission. There's a bunch of fun stuff that we're going to be exploring in that. If you're interested, you can see details in the description. My teaching is for students on the path. Who have goodwill towards themselves, humanity, and are really working at exploring the depths of spiritual dissolution, working towards the dissolution of self, okay? The non-dualistic exploration. Now, there's many dualistic practices that can be beneficial on this path. But if you're wanting to sort of just learn how to, manipulate people and that kind of stuff, I'm not the teacher for you. There's many out there who are happy to oblige on that front. My interest is in the spiritual exploration when I'm teaching, especially those who are on that path. There's also training on the website, pre-recorded courses in Tai Chi and Qi Gong, Hermetic Alchemy meditation. So you can check those out. There's a Zenden there, which is a Q&A video reference library. I'll answer any questions you have via video. Just send me a note, and as soon as I have service and I'm able to record a good answer for you, I will get that up for you. And lastly, private coaching, private lessons. These are done on an interview basis, one-on-ones, okay? I do not teach everybody, so we want to make sure we are a good fit. And once that has been established, then we can organize private instruction. These lessons are 2 hours in length, and they are almost always worked through with depths of transmission. So once again, you can contact me if you're interested in that stuff as well. All right, I think that's everything for this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.